I was in Thailand recently and actually I was very surprised at the cost of things. It's so affordable.
Bangkok's always been great. Even to take a pool villa here and you look at the cost of this and versus, an average suite in New York or Paris or Tokyo or whatever. I mean, it's huge value for money. This is Nick Downing from the Siam, talking to Renae on her amazing podcast about the future of luxury travel from here in Bangkok, Thailand.
Had, an amazing career and you started working for Hyatt in Perth and then you moved on to what was then, Australia's most luxurious hotel, the Versace. So tell me about those days and what led you to this life and love of luxury hotels.
I was very lucky in a young age. I grew up in a small family that loved to travel. So I became very addicted to very nice hotels at an early age, I guess. And it sort of drew me into that environment. I ended up having a job starting as a night porter with the Hyatt Regency there. And yeah, they just took it from there. I've always said, I think you have to sort of have a passion and a desire to want to work in hospitality. It's not something that you necessarily go into to make $1 million or anything like that. I think it's something that you're either born to do or not in some ways. And I was just very lucky that Hyatt was a great opportunity at the time and they really helped to develop me. So I did a lot of training and I got my basis with them. But after 10 years with them, it was, I guess I started to think about other opportunities and I saw Palazzo Versace being built. It was certainly a very unique project.
It was at the time, wasn't it? It was the first real, glamorous luxury hotel Australia had ever seen.
And, there were all those rumours swirling around and, they were using silly terms like 6-star and all that sort of thing. So I was lucky enough to be appointed as the front office pre-opening front office manager, I guess, and forming the team there. And that was an incredible experience. I mean, it was my first pre-opening for a start. So when you're part of that creation process, and that property was really iconic at the time. It was a very intense time of my life. Certainly.
You would have seen some crazy celebrities going through there at the time, wouldn't you? And some crazy things happening because that hotel was in the headlines. People were turning up wearing a head-to-toe Versace. People were stealing all the ashtrays, right?
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, we opened in September, the same day as the Sydney Olympics. I remember that quite clearly. And, when we got to December for festive season, it was suddenly like we literally had to close the doors to the public. We could not get any more people in the lobby than we had. It was just phenomenal. People were just swarming in. And, it's supposed to be this uber exclusive hotel, but we also wanted to welcome, the community in. It was built on the Gold Coast for that reason. We had all the stories of, people taking off the cushion covers and stuffing the cushions down the back of, trying to take whatever they were, because everything was original Versace. The teaspoons were $100 and, so it was an interesting time. There was a newspaper report that went out, said that we had electronic tracking on everything. We didn't, but we let that go out. It was quite helpful at the time.
100%. I remember the stories. Yeah. And then, of course, you went on to Hayman Island.
Where do you go after Versace? It's such an iconic hotel. It was an amazing experience. But when I was approached to go to Hayman, it was, again, Hayman's iconic. I had an incredible time there. Again, amazing team.
You went from that Australian island, Hayman Island, to some other islands in the Maldives.
These opportunities sort of came to me sort of out of the blue and not really expected. And, I was approached to consider a role as the number 2 on Sonita Gili, which is now called Gili Lankan Fushi. But it sort of seemed like an amazing opportunity to move overseas.
A very different level of luxury, right? I mean, to what you'd seen in Australia, that would have been elevated.
Yeah, and it really was. I walked onto this island, which was 100 metres long, 50 metres wide, 40 villas that are all like 200 square metres. On that island, I had a team village that had about 250 staff. It was, mind-opening. It was incredible. It opened my eyes to never say no, dream it and make it happen.
It's all very well to talk about luxury and sort of as travellers, we love it. But how was it to live in such a small, isolated location back then? As you said, there weren't all of the resorts around you that are there now. Did you get lonely? Did you feel isolated?
I get asked that a lot. And from my point of view, I ultimately ended up spending about 5 years in remote destinations on islands like that. I look back at it and go, how did I do it? But at the time, you're just absorbed into it. And you may not have family there, but you are part of a family of the team that is running the property, and you become very close to people there.
How fantastic. And then from there, you went to Southeast Asia, and that sort of developed a passion, as I've read, and a love affair with Southeast Asia. Is that right?
Yeah, and again, I sort of see Indian Ocean and Southeast Asia quite similar. I mean, I've been very lucky. I ended up in Cambodia at Siem Reap at a Bill Bensley designed property called Hotel de la Paix, and was there for 3 years. And incredible people. The people who are in Cambodia are just so warm, so friendly, loving, and just will do anything to work together to make things happen.
How did you go about teaching local people? I mean, you've done it so many times now, you know, the art of luxury, because it must be a real challenge with some of the Southeast Asian cultures.
I guess, you know, my style generally is, and it's probably one reason I've sort of tended to focus more on how should I say it, independent hotels rather than big branded hotels. If you can create a culture where your team just understands whatever it takes, like try and say yes first and then make it happen. It's a case of creating that culture. So you give them the flexibility, you give them the support and the guidelines around it. But really to have the flexibility of what's in their heart. And like where I am now, there are people in certain roles, but everybody just sort of helps everybody. You know, if we have an event going on, you know, frankly, I'll be running food. The hotel manager is, you know, making the orders happening. Everybody's helping, everybody crosses over. And I think that's the secret to how to make these sort of properties work.
And look, it is the signature of, you know, family-owned properties, isn't it? Because you have that flexibility. And tell us about the Siam. It's a hotel I have not yet been to. I've read so many fantastic things about it. I mean, it must be a thrill to be at the helm of such a magnificent hotel.
I heard about the opportunity at the Siam, and I had known this property since it had opened. I knew the original general manager. I obviously knew Bill Bensley from previous times. And there's a lot of sort of deja vu walking around the two properties. Some of the design influences are a little bit similar. A bit of deco influence, the black and white, grey. I couldn't pass up the opportunity. It's the perfect property. You know, it's small, it's intimate. I get to do the sort of things that I would do for, perhaps in the Maldives. You know, it's not a huge high-rise hotel. It's not 400 rooms. It's not, you know, check in, check out. You get to know every single guest. In fact, guests meet guests. I've got 2 couples who actually have become friends here in 3 days and actually have gone out to dinner outside tonight. It's that sort of property. 39
rooms and suites, right?
Yeah, so we have basically 28 suites in this building, which the smallest is about 75 square metres, going up to about
huge.
110. And then we have 10 private pool villas that are very Bensley designed, gorgeous courtyard pool villas, a beautiful plunge pool, soaring high ceilings. And it's just, there's a wow factor. People walk in and go, oh my God, I didn't expect that. Especially downtown Bangkok, on the river in Bangkok, I should say.
Gorgeous.
So it's just, very unique property. And again, Bensley has got his touch everywhere.
Well, it's funny you say that. Mia, one of our producers, she found something where I think you were quoted as saying that the hotel is part resort, part hotel, part museum. Is that a Bensley influence, that part of it, or tell us about that?
That's what Bensley actually put on his website, I think, to describe us and the design process, because as I said, this is not a high-rise air-conditioned tower. And so it doesn't suit everybody in Bangkok. This is a 39-room property on 3 Rai. It's a very big site. We have about 40% of the space dedicated to public area, which is actually a huge amount for a city hotel. So
especially for Bangkok.
It is, and you will see people getting lost in the hotel. Like they will find places after a day or two. I didn't realize that existed. Like we're in the library here. Behind us, there's a small screening room, cinema. Upstairs, we've got a little room called the vinyl room, which we've got 400 vinyl records. The gym on the other side is a vintage gym with boxing ring. The spa is sort of buried down, and it's just another world down in the spa. And yet that's just in this building. There's another building at the front, which was renovated in 2019 with a whole new direction. And then down by the river, we've got the old Thai houses where the restaurant is and the beautiful lap pool. So it really is, quite a phenomenal property. And guests just love it. And there is that sense of space and exclusivity. And you might see people at breakfast, but you might not see guests again after that. They're all over the place. And
sounds beautiful. And there's talk of a second Siam hotel, I believe. Can you enlighten us about that?
We actually have found land, and the Souls actually have purchased land in Chiang Mai.
Wow.
It's right on the river. It's a gorgeous site. We bought it just before COVID hit, and we started a couple of design meetings, but it's been on hold at the moment where, we do hope to come back to that. I think part of it is we've got about over 5,000 pieces of artwork and antiques and curios from our owner's collection, some of which you're seeing in the background here. I think we've run out of space here. We need another hotel to put more.
What a nice problem to have. And tell me, do you think that Bill Bensley might be involved in that project? Or
we definitely had discussions with Bill. The Siam is synonymous with Bensley in a lot of ways. Personally, I'd love to see that. I think it would be a great fit. And, there's such a history and a reputation of the Siam. It's hard to imagine it with another direction.
Absolutely. And tell me, Nick, on a personal level, where do you like to travel to? I mean, I guess we're talking all of the changes. And is it in luxury?
In some ways, yes. I mean, it's funny. I love cities. I love the big cities. I love, for example, Tokyo. I love Japan. I love, the atmosphere, the food, that sort of place. Done some incredible trips there. But then I love to go a little bit off the grid. And I am a bit of a luxury guy, I think. One of my most memorable trips was Nihi Sumba. Went there with a couple of friends, and it was just incredible. I mean,
does it inspire you when you see properties like that? Does it give you a lot of inspiration to do things in Bangkok?
Yeah, in some ways. I mean, I think properties have their own DNA, but sometimes you come away with ideas, or you see perhaps products that they've used or concepts that they've done, and you think, okay, does that work, or is there some variation of that could add to what we do here? So it is. I think travel post-COVID, my personal feeling, it reaffirmed what I thought, which is that people are going to immediately jump back to travel as quickly as they can, especially at the luxury level. I do believe people are going to travel. There is people that just want to get anywhere that they can go that's not too complicated, that they don't have to quarantine. You can see the Maldives. Maldives at the moment, they opened up completely. It's very easy to fly in there, and they have had a record year this past year. And that's why, we're pushing here in Thailand, and it's gradually opening.
Definitely. And we've also seen a lot of success in the Middle East because, again, they've handled things really well and made it easy for the luxury traveller to get in and out. On that note, what do you think the luxury traveller is going to look for now that's different? What are the changes that you're anticipating?
I mean, I would say even here, we have had a few people that are asking about volume of people. Like they're looking for places that perhaps aren't overcrowded. It's already a bit of a cliche, I must admit. But I do think that, a property like this, I am seeing people choosing us because we are small, because we've got open air spaces. Our restaurant is open air, a beautiful century-old Thai house down by the river. The fact that we don't have, hundreds of people around. I think that will pass eventually anyway. I think people will still go back to traveling how they used to do. What we are noticing at the moment is they're tending to have longer stays as well. I think that's perhaps part of the whole logistics of travel at the moment. So
I agree with you. It's you can't travel here, there, everywhere because it's just too complicated and the laws change.
Well, yeah, I just did my first trip back home to Australia and stopped in Singapore for a few days on the way back to come back to Thailand, where I had to sandbox. And I had like this much paperwork and the logistics. But even while I was traveling for that 3 weeks, every single country changed their structure and their plans while I was traveling. So I can understand even for Southeast Asia, Thailand is fantastic. You can do everything here, from beach to culture to city. But people ultimately come, you know, from the other side of the planet. They want to come here. They want to see Vietnam. They want to see Laos. They want to see Cambodia. Yeah. And it's a great time to do it because, like, to go to Angkor Wat, there's like nobody there. I mean, you would have paid thousands of dollars to do that before. So it's a great time to travel, but just logistically at the moment, it's difficult.
And pollution's down, traffic's down, rubbish is down. You know, there are some real positives. I totally agree with you. And tell me, how did you find Australia? How did you feel going back there?
A little strange. I'm originally from Perth, but luckily my mum lives in Melbourne now because I wouldn't have been able to go back to Perth. It was strange flying into Australia after all that they've been through and how strict they've been. You know, literally I flew into Melbourne and only had to do a rapid test. So, and then I was free to do whatever. It was quite surreal, but everybody's sort of trying to get back to normal. So that was positive. That was positive.
Yeah.
And, you know, I sense a lot of countries now opening up. You see Europe doing it, and I think Australia's heading in that direction. I think, you know, we've got to get back to just living and traveling and socializing and moving on.
Could you work back in Australia, do you think, ever?
Oh,
I had to ask.
That's a difficult question. I mean, my home here is in Thailand. Mum, if you're listening, ignore that. No, it's, you know, I had the chat with her, and in an ideal world, I think I'd probably stay in Southeast Asia. My heart is here. My home is here. I love Thailand. You know, I love returning to Australia. It's easy. I love going back there, seeing friends and whatever. But ultimately, I haven't worked in Australia since 2001. And to be honest, I'm not sure I could do what I do here, there.
It's a different luxury market.
There's some really interesting properties now starting to open up for a few years. But I'm not sure you could do what you do here, or the style of service that you do. I look at how I interact with guests here and what my team does, and I'm not sure it's the same in Australia. And that's not a negative. It's just I love what I do.
Yeah, no, I hear you. So speaking of how much you love it there, can you share some of your favorite restaurants in Bangkok? We would love some recommendations from you.
Oh, look, I mean, Bangkok's such a foodie scene now. I mean, it's even during COVID, it's actually created even more. I went to one restaurant. I'm not sure I want to talk about it because it's such a small restaurant. It's already difficult to get into, and I don't want people to know about it. But it's a great one in Chinatown. It's called Potong, Potong. It's a great little restaurant, 5-story shop house, very inventive Thai tasting menu. Got a great little bar on the top called Opium Bar, which sort of reflects. We've got a spa called Opium Spa, so it's good.
Yes.
But yeah, it's just a fun little restaurant. But there's so many down here now. They just keep opening more and more. There's another one, David Thompson restaurant, Axon, which is just down the river as well. There's another little small one called Nusara that's only 12 seats. Nusara is actually one from a chef called Chef Ton. He was behind the Michelin star Ledoux, which is another personal favourite of mine in town. So, I mean, I could go on and on. There's just
there's so many.
Yeah, and it's great. You know, we have people, you know, we've got our boat that goes up and down the river. So most guests will come here. And then if they want to go out for dinner, we'll just, you know, send them out on the boat.
And after so many years working in luxury hotels, have you got any celebrity stories you can share with us? You must have heaps.
We've had a couple of, we've had a few here. Yeah, I mean, David Beckham stayed with us. That was fairly public, and he's a lovely guy. He stayed in one of our pool villas down here with, you know, Sam Smith was here. We do sakyant tattoos, which are traditional Thai tattoos in our spa.
Yes, in your spa, isn't it? You do them? Yeah,
it's a gorgeous studio. Great concept that the previous general manager came up with, and it's been hugely successful. But actually, when he was staying here for his concert, his sister had one on her finger. It was a bit of an unusual one. And he loved it so much, he ended up having one. So every time I see him sing now with his microphone, you see this small little tattoo, and that's us.
Well, so hang on, just getting back to David Beckham, he wouldn't have had that, would he? Because he's got so many tattoos already.
Yeah, it was interesting. He had a great entourage. He was in there seeing a couple of his security guards had a couple of tattoos done. And
Right.
I sort of said, "Oh, do you think you might have one as well?" And no, I'm not going. Last time I had a tattoo without Victoria saying so, then he got into a bit of trouble. So he didn't end up having one with us.
That's funny. I was staying at Le Bristol Hotel in Paris, and David was there, and he actually closed the bar one night, and just I happened to be there, and he invited me and had a whole lot of soccer players, none of whom I recognise because I don't follow soccer. But he basically put on this entire party for everyone there. He doesn't drink, or he wasn't drinking then. He was having tea, and he just financed the whole thing. And we had this party till like 3 a.m. He's incredibly generous and such a lovely, humble human.
One of the nicest guys that I've ever met here. So yeah, lovely guy.
Wow. So, Sam Smith, and anyone else that you want to?
We had another pop star, for example, who took basically the whole hotel for her after party at the end of her tour.
Wow.
You know, we've had a few unusual ones. We actually had another group, wasn't so much a celebrity one, but flew in during COVID. It was quite an interesting one. It was a private jet group, quite a young crowd, and they took the whole hotel for 10 days as a COVID bubble. And,
where were they from?
Everywhere.
Right.
They've literally been flying around the world, but some from the US, but you know, they had DJs flying with them. They had different people, and yeah, they had an incredible party here that literally went for about 24 hours. So that was a lot of fun too.
I was in Thailand recently, and actually I was very surprised at the cost of things. It's so affordable.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, Bangkok's always been great. Even to take a pool villa here, and you look at the cost of this, and versus, you know, an average suite in New York or Paris or, you know, Tokyo or whatever. I mean, it's huge value for money.
I have to ask you, Nick, the question we ask all of our wonderful guests is, where to from here for you?
Look, I just can't wait to get on a plane again and just go and meet friends again. One of my dearest friends is waiting to get married. And there's a core group of us around the world that are just waiting for her to set the day. That's next. We're waiting to find out the day for when she's married or getting married, and it'll be a massive reunion for us all. So I can't wait to do that.
Oh, that's spectacular. Will you enjoy that and enjoy, you know, Bangkok coming back to life? I really hope I get to meet you in person soon. I'm in Jakarta, so I'm not too far away. And thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely, my pleasure, Renae. And thank you for reaching out, and hope to see you up here in Thailand soon.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Nick. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Don't forget to subscribe here and follow us on Instagram and Facebook for regular travel updates. You can also hear our episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.